Energy development is a field of endeavor focused on making available sufficient primary energy sources and secondary energy forms to meet the needs of society. These endeavors encompass those which provide for the production of conventional, alternative and renewable sources of energy, and for the recovery and reuse of energy that would otherwise be wasted. Energy conservation and efficiency measures reduce the effect of energy development, and can have benefits to society with changes in economic cost and with changes in the environmental effects. Contemporary industrial societies use primary and secondary energy sources for transportation and the production of many manufactured goods. Also, large industrial populations have various generation and delivery services for energy distribution and end-user utilization. This energy is used by people who can afford the cost to live under various climatic conditions through the use of heating, ventilation, and/or air conditioning. Level of use of external energy sources differs across societies, along with the convenience levels of traffic congestion, pollution sources and availability of domestic energy sources. Thousands of people in society are employed in the energy industry. The conventional industry comprises the petroleum industry, the gas industry, the electrical power industry, the coal industry, and the nuclear power industry. New energy industries include the renewable energy industry, comprising alternative and sustainable manufacture, distribution, and sale of alternative fuels, while there is the development of new hydrocarbon sources, including deepwater, horizontal drilling and fracking, are continuously underway. Commitments to mitigate climate change are driving efforts to develop sources of alternative and renewable energy. Types of energy. Colloquially, and in non-scientific literature, the terms power, fuels, and energy can be used as synonyms, but in the field of energy technology they possess different distinct meanings that are associated with them. An energy source is usually in the form of a closed system, the element that provides the energy by conversion from another energy form. However, the energy can be quantitative. The balance sheet is capable of containing open system energy transfers. Illustrative of this can be the emanations from the Sun, which with its nuclear fusion is the most important energy source for the Earth and which provides its energy in the form of radiation. The natural elements of the material world exist in forms that can be converted into usable energy and the resources from which society can obtain energy to produce heat, light, and motion. According to the nature, the power plants can be classified into primary. They are found in nature: wind, water, solar, wood, coal, oil, nuclear. Secondary are those obtained from primary energy sources: electricity, gas. Classified according to the energy reserves of the energy source used and the regeneration capacity with renewable. When the energy source used is freely regenerated in a short period and there are practically limitless reserves, an example is the solar energy, that is the source of energy from the sun, or the wind used as an energy resource. Renewable energies are original solar, natural wind, natural geothermal, oceanic tidal, natural waterfall, natural plant, paper, wood, natural animal, wax, grease, pack animals and sources of mechanical energy. Non-renewable, they are coming from energy-limited sources on Earth in quantity and, therefore, are exhaustible. The non-renewable energy sources include, non-exclusively, fossil source, petroleum, natural gas, coal, original mineral, chemical, uranium, shale gas. So, for example, shale gas is secondary non-renewable. Wind is a primary renewable. The principle stated by Antoine Lavoisier on the conservation of matter applies to energy development. Nothing is created. Thus, any energy production is actually a recovery transformation of the forms of energy whose origin is that of the universe. For example, a bicycle dynamo turns in part from the kinetic energy of the movement of the cyclist, and converting it into electrical energy will transfer in particular to its lights, producing light, that is to say light energy, via the heating of the filament of the bulb and therefore heat. But the kinetic energy of the rider is itself biochemical energy derived from the chemical energy of sugar synthesized by plants who use light energy from the sun, which runs from the nuclear energy produced by fusion of atoms of hydrogen. This material itself constitutes a form of energy, called mass energy. Fossil fuels. Fossil fuel sources burn coal or hydrocarbon fuels, which are the remains of the decomposition of plants and animals. There are three main types of fossil fuels: coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Another fossil fuel, liquefied petroleum gas, is principally derived from the production of natural gas. Heat from burning fossil fuel is used either directly for space heating and process heating, or converted to mechanical energy for vehicles, industrial processes, or electrical power generation. Fossil energy is from recovered fossils and are originated in degraded products of dead plants and animals. These fossil fuels are based on the carbon cycle and thus allow stored energy to be recycled today. In 2005, 81% of the world's energy needs met from fossil sources. Biomass is also derived from wood and other organic wastes and modern remains. The technical development of fossil fuels in the 18th and 19th centuries set the stage for the Industrial Revolution. Fossil fuels make up the bulk of the world's current primary energy sources. The technology and infrastructure already exist for the use of fossil fuels. Petroleum energy density in terms of volume and mass ranks currently above that of alternative energy sources. Fossil fuels are currently economical and suitable for decentralized energy use. Dependence on fossil fuels from regions or countries creates energy security risks for dependent countries. Oil dependence in particular has led to war, funding of radicals, monopolization, and socio-political instability. Fossil fuels are non-renewable, unsustainable resources, which will eventually decline in production and become exhausted, with consequences to societies that remain dependent on them. Fossil fuels are actually slowly forming continuously, but are being consumed quicker than are formed. Extracting fuels becomes increasingly extreme as society consumes the most accessible fuel deposits. Extraction in fuel mines get intensive and oil rigs drill deeper. Extraction of fossil fuels results in environmental degradation, such as the strip mining and mountaintop removal of coal. Fuel efficiency is a form of thermal efficiency, meaning the efficiency of a process that converts chemical potential energy contained in a carrier fuel into kinetic energy at work. The fuel economy is the energy efficiency of a particular vehicle is given as a ratio of distance traveled per unit of fuel consumed. Weight-specific efficiency may be stated for freight and passenger-specific efficiency. The inefficient atmospheric combustion of fossil fuels in vehicles, buildings, and power plants contributes to urban heat islands. Conventional production of oil has peaked, conservatively, between 2007 and 2010. In 2010, it was estimated that an investment in non-renewable resources of $8 trillion would be required to maintain current levels of production for 25 years. In 2010, governments subsidized fossil fuels by an estimated $500 billion a year. Fossil fuels are also a source of greenhouse gas emissions, leading to concerns about global warming if consumption is not reduced. The combustion of fossil fuels leads to the release of pollution into the atmosphere. The fossil fuels are mainly based on organic carbon compounds. They are, according to the IPCC, the causes of the global warming. During the combustion with oxygen in the form of heat energy, carbon dioxide released, depending on the composition and purity of the fossil fuel, also results in other chemical compounds such as nitrogen oxides and soot and other fine particulates. Alternatively, greenhouse gas emissions result from fossil fuel-based electricity generation. A typical coal plant generates billions of kilowatt-hours per year. Emissions from such fossil fuel power station include carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, small particulates, nitrogen oxides, smog with high levels of ozone, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, volatile organic compounds, mercury, arsenic, lead, cadmium, other heavy metals, and traces of uranium. Nuclear fission. Nuclear power, or nuclear energy, is the use of exothermic nuclear processes to generate useful heat and electricity. The term includes nuclear fission, nuclear decay, and nuclear fusion. Presently, the nuclear fission of elements in the actinide series of the periodic table produce the vast majority of nuclear energy in the direct service of humankind, with nuclear decay processes, primarily in the form of geothermal energy, and radioisotope thermoelectric generators, in niche uses making up the rest. Nuclear power stations, excluding the contribution from naval nuclear fission reactors, provided about 5.7% of the world's energy and 13% of the world's electricity in 2012. In 2013, the IAEA report that there are 437 operational nuclear power reactors in 31 countries, although not every reactor is producing electricity. In addition, there are approximately 140 naval vessels using nuclear propulsion in operation, powered by some 180 reactors. As of 2013, attaining a net energy gain from sustained nuclear fusion reactions, excluding natural fusion power sources such as the sun, remains an ongoing area of international physics and engineering research. More than 60 years after the first attempts, commercial fusion power production remains unlikely before 2050. There is an ongoing debate about nuclear power. Proponents, such as the World Nuclear Association, the IAEA, and environmentalists for nuclear energy contend that nuclear power is a safe, sustainable energy source that reduces carbon emissions. Opponents, such as Greenpeace International and NIRS, contend that nuclear power poses many threats to people and the environment. Nuclear power plant accidents include the Chernobyl disaster, Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, and the 3 Mile Island accident. There have also been some nuclear submarine accidents. In terms of lives lost per unit of energy generated, analysis has determined that nuclear power has caused less fatalities per unit of energy generated than the other major sources of energy generation. Energy production from coal, petroleum, natural gas and hydropower has caused a greater number of fatalities per unit of energy generated due to air pollution and energy accident effects. However, the economic costs of nuclear power accidents is high, and meltdowns can take decades to clean up. The human costs of evacuations of affected populations and lost livelihoods is also significant. In 2016, strengthening the case of nuclear fission being regarded as a renewable energy, the global effort focused on techniques to economically extract the naturally replenishing uranium found in seawater took a step forward and will prevent peak uranium as the quantity of uranium now becoming economically recoverable with the field-tested absorbent polymer ropes is practically inexhaustible. Along with other sustainable energy sources, nuclear power is a low-carbon power generation method of producing electricity, with an analysis of the literature on its total life cycle emission intensity finding that it is similar to other renewable sources in a comparison of greenhouse gas emissions per unit of energy generated, with this translating into, from the beginning of nuclear power station commercialization in the 1970s, having prevented the emission of approximately 64 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent greenhouse gases, gases that would have otherwise resulted from the burning of oil, coal and natural gas in fossil fuel power stations. As of 2012, according to the IAEA, worldwide there were 68 civil nuclear power reactors under construction in 15 countries, approximately 28 of which in the People's Republic of China, with the most recent nuclear power reactor, as of May 2013, to be connected to the electrical grid, occurring on February 17, 2013 in Hongyan Nuclear Power Plant in the PRC. In the United States, 2 new Generation 3 reactors are under construction at Vogtle. U.S. nuclear industry officials expect 5 new reactors to enter service by 2020, all at existing plants. In 2013, 4 aging, uncompetitive reactors were permanently closed. Japan's 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident, which occurred in a reactor design from the 1960s, prompted a rethink of nuclear safety and nuclear energy policy in many countries. Germany decided to close all its reactors by 2022, and Italy has banned nuclear power. Following Fukushima, in 2011 the International Energy Agency halved its estimate of additional nuclear generating capacity to be built by 2035. Fission economics. The economics of new nuclear power plants is a controversial subject, since there are diverging views on this topic, and multi-billion-dollar investments ride on the choice of an energy source. Nuclear power plants typically have high capital costs for building the plant, but low direct fuel costs. In recent years there has been a slowdown of electricity demand growth and financing has become more difficult, which affects large projects such as nuclear reactors, with very large upfront costs and long project cycles which carry a large variety of risks. In Eastern Europe, a number of long-established projects are struggling to find finance, notably Berlin in Bulgaria and the additional reactors at Cernavodă in Romania, and some potential backers have pulled out. Where cheap gas is available and its future supply relatively secure, this also poses a major problem for nuclear projects. Analysis of the economics of nuclear power must take into account who bears the risks of future uncertainties. To date, all operating nuclear power plants were developed by state-owned or regulated utility monopolies, where many of the risks associated with construction costs, operating performance, fuel price, and other factors were borne by consumers rather than suppliers. Many countries have now liberalized the electricity market where these risks, and the risk of cheaper competitors emerging before capital costs are recovered, are borne by plant suppliers and operators rather than consumers, which leads to a significantly different evaluation of the economics of new nuclear power plants. 2 of the 4 EPRs under construction are significantly behind schedule and substantially overcost. Following the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, costs are likely to go up for currently operating and new nuclear power plants. due to increased requirements for on-site spent fuel management and elevated design basis threats, while first-of-the-kind designs, such as the EPRs under construction, are behind schedule and over budget. Of the 7 South Korean April 1400s presently under construction worldwide, 2 are in Korea at the Hanul nuclear power plant and 4 are at the largest nuclear station construction project in the world as of 2016, in the United Arab Emirates at the planned Baraka nuclear power plant. The first reactor, BARAKAH-1, is 85% completed and on schedule for grid connection during 2017. Increased energy efficiency. Although increasing the efficiency of energy use is not energy development per se, it may be considered under the topic of energy development since it makes existing energy sources available to do work. Efficient energy use, simply called energy efficiency, is the goal of efforts to reduce the amount of energy required to provide products and services. For example, insulating a home allows a building to use less heating and cooling energy to achieve and maintain a comfortable temperature. Installing fluorescent lamps or natural skylights reduces the amount of energy required to attain the same level of illumination compared to using traditional incandescent light bulbs. Compact fluorescent lights use 2/3 less energy and may last 6 to 10 times longer than incandescent lights. Improvements in energy efficiency are most often achieved by adopting an efficient technology or production process. There are various motivations to improve energy efficiency. Reducing energy use reduces energy costs and may result in a financial cost saving to consumers if the energy savings offset any additional costs of implementing an energy-efficient technology. Reducing energy use is also seen as a key solution to the problem of reducing emissions. According to the International Energy Agency, improved energy efficiency in buildings, industrial processes and transportation could reduce the world's energy needs in 2050 by 1/3, and help control global emissions of greenhouse gases. Energy efficiency and renewable energy are said to be the twin pillars of sustainable energy policy. In many countries, energy efficiency is also seen to have a national security benefit because it can be used to reduce the level of energy imports from foreign countries and may slow down the rate at which domestic energy resources are depleted. Transmission. While new sources of energy are only rarely discovered or made possible by new technology, distribution technology continually evolves. The use of fuel cells in cars, for example, is an anticipated delivery technology. This section presents the various delivery technologies that have been important to historic energy development. They all rely in way on the energy sources listed in the previous section. Shipping and pipelines. Shipping is a flexible delivery technology that is used in the whole range of energy development regimes from primitive to highly advanced. Currently, coal, petroleum and their derivatives are delivered by shipping via boat, rail, or road. Petroleum and natural gas may also be delivered via pipeline and coal via a slurry pipeline. Refined hydrocarbon fuels such as gasoline and LPG may also be delivered via aircraft. Natural gas pipelines must maintain a certain minimum pressure to function correctly. Ethanol's corrosive properties make it harder to build ethanol pipelines. The higher costs of ethanol transportation and storage are often prohibitive. Geomagnetically induced currents, seen as interfering with the normal operation of long-buried pipeline systems, are a manifestation at ground level of space weather that occur due to time-varying ionospheric source fields and the conductivity of the Earth. Wired energy transfer. Electricity grids are the networks used to transmit and distribute power from production source to end user. When the two may be be hundreds of kilometers away. Sources include electrical generation plants such as a nuclear reactor, coal-burning power plant, etc. A combination of substations, transformers, towers, cables, and piping are used to maintain a constant flow of electricity. Grids may suffer from transient blackouts, and brownouts are often due to weather damage. During certain extreme space weather events, solar wind can interfere with transmissions. Grids also have a predefined carrying capacity, a load that cannot safely be exceeded. When power requirements exceed what's available, failures are inevitable. To prevent problems, power is then rationed. Industrialized countries such as Canada, the US, and Australia are among the highest per capita consumers of electricity in the world, which is possible thanks to a widespread electrical distribution network. The U.S. grid is one of the most advanced, although infrastructure maintenance is becoming a problem. Current Energy provides a real-time overview of the electricity supply and demand for California, Texas, and the northeast of the U.S. African countries with small-scale electrical grids have a correspondingly low annual per capita usage of electricity. One of the most powerful power grids in the world supplies power to the state of Queensland, Australia. Wireless energy transfer. Wireless energy transfer is a process whereby electrical energy is transmitted from a power source to an electrical load that does not have a built-in power source, without the use of interconnecting wires. Storage. Energy storage is accomplished by devices of physical media that store energy to perform useful operation at a later time. A device that stores energy is sometimes called an accumulator. All forms of energy are either potential energy or kinetic energy. Some technologies provide only short-term energy storage, and others can be very long-term, such as power to gas using hydrogen or methane, and the storage of heat or cold between opposing seasons in deep aquifers or bedrock. A wind-up clock stores potential energy. A battery stores readily convertible chemical energy to operate a mobile phone. And a hydroelectric dam stores energy in a reservoir as gravitational potential energy. Ice storage tanks store ice at night to meet peak demand for cooling. Fossil fuels such as coal and gasoline store ancient energy derived from sunlight by organisms that later died, became buried, and over time were then converted into these fuels. Even food is a form of energy stored in chemical form.